All right, again. It is. We glad to be back. We glad to be back. And this installment is called We Made a Decision to Turn Our Will and Our Lives Over to the Care of God as We Understood Him. And I'm going to talk about my experience with this step. We made a decision. And inside this step right here, the third step, it was so simple that it was complicated for me. This step was really, really complicated to me. And it wasn't so much on the decision part, because step one and step two helped me to see why I needed to make a decision. In step one, it says we admitted that we were powerless over our addiction, that our lives had become unmanageable. And I got a pamphlet around here. Hold up. Yeah, I got a little reference material. And see, because I was under the influence of, it still hadn't resonated with me about disease, the disease concept of addiction. When I left step one, in my thinking, it was still drugs, alcohol, sex, gambling. All that was addiction. However, and so I treated it like that. I thought as long as I could stay clean and sober, I was dealing with the addiction. But y'all kept telling me, y'all kept saying, Sunni, addiction is in your mind. It's in your thought process. But I wasn't hearing that because I was so happy to be off of the symptom. And the symptom was what the latter stuff that I just mentioned. That's what the symptom was. In step two, when step two said, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity, I did not look at the whole step. I went dead to the focus on the power greater than myself, and I took it for being a higher power. I was not paying attention to what the step was saying. Even though in the basic text in Narcotics Anonymous, it was saying that a power greater than myself was the addiction. I took it to be G-O-D. And I ran off with that. And I did not get the benefit of the second step when it talked about a power greater than myself. And then it also mentioned that it was addiction. And I'm going to go ahead and put alcohol in, and I'll put gambling in, and I'll put sex in, I'll put drugs in, I'll put work in, I'll put anything that would change my mood, my mind and my mood, that would alter my mind and my mood. Anything. And that was anything. So what happened was I had a false start on the program already, because I'm not understanding that the disease of addiction affected my thinking, and it was lodged where? In my mind. So I'm going to pull up a little recovery, this pamphlet I have, and it talks about, hold up, let me get to that spot where it talked about what addiction is. And it says, hold up, let me find it. You know, I should have kind of like outlined it, but I'm the type of person that thought that I wouldn't have to. So anyway, it says, well, I'm not going to hold it long, but what relapse and the recovery material talks about It breaks down what addiction is. Oh, here it is. Bam, I found it. And we do recovery. It says, although politics makes strange bedfellows, as the old saying goes, addiction makes us one of a kind. Our personal stories vary in individual pattern, but in the end, we all have the same thing in common. The common illness or disorder is addiction. It says true addiction, is addiction. We know well that two things make up true addiction. Now listen, it says we know well that two things make up true addiction: obsession and compulsion. Obsession, that fixed idea that takes us time, that takes us back, Obsession, that fixed idea that takes us back time and time again to our particular drug or some substitute. Or some substitute. Let me say that one more time. Or some substitute to recapture the ease and comfort we once knew. So it talks about your drug, as they say these days, your DOC, your drug of choice. But then it goes past that. It says, or some substitute. And what could that substitute be? It could be a power greater than yourself. That's what that substitute is. And you could put whatever it is you want to put in there after the drugs and the alcohol. You could put sex. You could put gambling. You could put reading. You could put writing. You could put working. You could put food. You could put movies. You could put movies. You could put drama. Whatever it is that you want to put in as what? As the substitute to recapture the ease and comfort we once knew. Then compulsion. Once having started the process with one fix, it says once started the process. So remember, addiction is a process, and what? Relapse is a process, and what? Recovery is a process. Neither thing is an event. There's no events here. Everything is a process. So let's move on. It says compulsion. Once having started the process with one fix, one pill, or one drink, we cannot stop through our own power or will. We can't stop through our own power or will. Let me say that one more time. For all the geniuses out there. Hold up. Let me say it says once we have started the process, and it says not event, it's a process. Once we have started the process with one fix, one pill, or one drink, we cannot stop through our own power or will. Because of our physical sensitivity to drugs, we are completely in the grip of a destructive power greater than ourselves. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Now, let me backtrack, because I know it's some fancy thinkers out there, and they probably saying, but Suni, it says drugs. It says drugs. Well, shoot back up there to the power to compulsion, where it says, to obsession, where it says that fixed idea that takes us time and time again to our particular drug or some substitute. So let's slide that word substitute. It's drugs or substitute, and or. And a lot of us is substitute. We ain't on the drug. We ain't on the alcohol. We done found another substitute. It could be a relationship. And I'm quite sure it is a relationship because it's a relationship with a person, place, or thing. Exactly. So let's move on because we dealing with step 3. Now notice this. It also said up under compulsion, it says we are completely in the grip of a destructive power greater than ourselves. Addiction and alcoholism is a power greater than yourself, not God. Not God. What do step 2 say? Let's look at step 2. It says we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could, not would, but could restore us to sanity. And until we get with what the power is that's restoring us to sanity, then you miss the whole step. And both fellowships agree that without step 2, there's no what? There's no recovery. The next steps won't work until I figure out what a power greater than myself is. And it's not God. Sorry. It's not. I'm going to say it again. And you go get your sponsor, get your grand sponsor, get your uncle sponsor, get your mama sponsor, get all of them. Because the literature is not supporting that view. Not the literature. Because it calls addiction and alcoholism a power greater than yourself. And if you don't think it is, go take a drink. Go smoke you something. Go toot you something. Go shoot you something and see where you be at. You're going to lose all control, even though you don't have none. That's why in step 1, when it says we admitted that we were powerless over our addiction, what it did was step 1 said, hey, look at what you was doing. Look at your behavior mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. Look how the obsession and the compulsion of addiction and alcoholism had affected your whole life. Look at what you was doing. And it's telling you to draw up any experience or a series of experience that you want to draw to take a look at. And then you look at the symptom. But it's the obsession and the compulsion at the end of the day. So let's move on. Because in the NA literature, it says step 2 left us with the void. So there was a void. Once I got with step 2, there was a void. And part of that void was a feeling of hopelessness because when I saw the power is greater than myself, and it says a power, or it could be a series of power, it was planted where? In my mind and my thinking. And it looked like I didn't have a way out. It looked like recovery was not possible. So let's take a look at the powers greater than self, than ourselves. That's exactly what it said. Ourselves. And ourselves is mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally, because that's how we live our lives on a day-to-day basis. For all you normal people, and all you metaphysical people, and all you esoteric people, and all you plain people. This is for everybody. Because what happens because of the nature of the disease of addiction, by it affecting your thinking, it have you, and your mind, really, it have you thinking you in control. But to give you a clue, once you start rationalizing, I'm going to make it real simple. The day you're not looking at yourself and what's going on with you, you under the influence of your own addiction. If you can't look at your own feelings, your own emotions, spiritually, mentally, and physically, and the physical result, and I'll say the physical result, because the physical result is an expression of the latter three. You got high blood pressure. You're overweight. Your eyesight going bad. Your body is totally degenerating. And it's not because of the normal process of age. It's because of your obsession and your compulsion to the addiction. And you rationalize it with your own thinking. And you study finding a way to get high. Some kind of way. Let me get high. Yeah, I'm talking about you. Because I'm talking about me. So let's keep it moving on. The addiction is lodged in the thinking. So it touches everything you think. What you look at consciously and subconsciously, there's the manifestation of the disease of addiction / alcoholism. And when you're talking about alcoholism, only thing you're doing in simplicity is living out an addiction. And somebody told you that you was you were different than an addict, and you not. Because you had the same manifestations. Okay, to the alcoholic. So you don't think you're an addict? Go smoke some weed, which you're probably doing anyway. Go sniff you some cocaine, which you're probably doing anyway. Go take you some pills, which you're probably doing anyway. Because you're saying it's not alcohol, but it's an ism. An ism is a lifestyle. An addiction is a lifestyle. So they are the same. Addiction and alcoholism are the same. But I'm not going to sit here and debate that point right now. We're going to keep it moving. So what happens in step 2? In step 2, I see the addiction in step 1. I realize the power is greater than myself and how subtle and sensitive that I am as a what? As a human being. And I realize that the addiction could be negative. The powers of addiction can be negative or foreseen in the positive. Well, Sammy, what do you mean when you say positive? Because I can call myself loving somebody and using somebody. I can call myself being empathetic and being just the opposite. Even though love and empathy are powers greater than myself, I can tell myself I'm grateful in one area, but very selfish in another area. Because gratitude is a power greater than myself. And love and gratitude or being grateful are two of the most effective means of healing in the recovery process. Gratitude and love. My gratitude speaks when I care and when I share with others. So we're going to move on to step 3 because this thing is about step 3. So what happened was, when I understand that there are different powers greater than me that's influencing me mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally, what happens is I realize the void that I must come through. And the void leads me, or I go through the void with faith. Because what step 2 has shown me is that there is no recovery until I begin to acknowledge certain powers in entities for the metaphysical people. right? Then I'm at the door at step 3, and I make a decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God. But first, I'm just going to say it straight out. The decision that I make is to turn my will and my life over to the care of the program and work the rest of the steps. That's what step 3 is saying. But what happens is, from what I hear and what I see, is when the God word comes up, people take God and leave the rest of the steps. Where's my tea at? That's what people do. And the third step in the basic text of Narcotics Anonymous, it flat out tell you, it says, this step is not based on dogma. It's not a dogmatic step. It's not a step of what? Let me say it. Form and concepts. It's not a step of form and concept. I'll say it again. It's not a step of form and concept. Well, Sunni, what do you mean by form and concept? It's not an image. There's no image associated with this step. That's the form. No crosses, no star and crescent, no unks, no what else is out there? We got stars, whether it's a Star of David or a gang star. It's no form. That's what it means when it says this step is not a dogma. And what's the concept? What's the concept? Well, usually concepts are usually followed by forms. Wherever there's a concept, wherever there's a form, there's a concept. You'll hear when in certain religious circles, and I'm not bashing religion, you hear in certain religious circles when they talk about the Trinity or the Star of David, or they'll talk about different other concepts that like different other Islamic concepts or Hindu concepts. But what this step is designed to do is to free the individual and the group from creating a form or a concept. But what happened in AA, let me back up. No, I'm going to stick with that. What happened in AA was when hold up, I got my AA book right here. When it talked about in AA, and it talked about the agnostic, and it's called We the Agnostic, chapter 4. And then in the last, hold up, We the Agnostic, page 44. And in the last statement, the last word, I'm gonna show y'all what happened. In page 44. Here it is, 43. And so notice what the last statement in We the Agnostic it says. It says, even so has God resorted us all. Wait a minute, hold up. Let me back it up. Let me back up. I want to say this right. So in chapter 57 in the big book, it says, what is this but a miracle of healing? And it's talking about the steps. Yet its elements are simple. Circumstances made him willing to believe. He humbly offered himself to his maker. And he's talking about, I'm assuming Dr. Bill making the decision to turn his will in life over to the program. Now, check this part out. Even so has God restored us all to our right minds. Uh-oh. Even so has God restored us to our right minds. How? Through the 12-step recovery process. No problem there, because even this statement is saying that alcoholism affects the mind and affects the thinking. And then it says, some of us, to this man, the revelation was sudden. Some of us grow into it more slowly, but he has come to all who have honestly sought him. Now he's talking about the God. He says, when we drew near to him, he disclosed himself to us. Now remember what I said about God? I said form and concept. The program is supposed to free us from form and concept as a result of form. So what did he use? He used him. And what is him? A form, a man. That automatically tainted the process. And that's just my experience. I ain't talking about nobody else's experience, because I looked at God as what? As a man. Y'all telling me that God was a man. Now let me show you. Let me show y'all something. So y'all telling me God is a man. My grandmama told me God was a man. My mama told me God was a man. My daddy told me God was a man. Well, what color was he? Now remember, I talked about form and concept. Step 3 is designed to free you from form and concept, because it said get a God of your understanding. But a lot of us went back to the form and concept that we actually grew up with. That's why we came up with good orderly direction. And the concept was, let me back up. We came up with good orderly direction, so therefore there was no form. And the concept was pure, because we said, get a God that's what? Loving and caring. And it was the third one. It said, get you a God that's what? That's loving and caring. That's all we had asked. But what happened was the form was passed on through the big book. A lot of alcoholics coming into the program and sharing, and us going over there. And I ain't saying all, I said a lot. Because I was one of them too. And y'all told me I had to go get a man for a God. When actually, the man that I got was the same man, God, that I despise because of the way I grew up. And for me, the form, and I'm just saying for me, when I looked at the God that my grandmother had, it was in the Bible, and he was blonde hair and blue eyes. And I had a problem with that. Because y'all still telling me to worship a man, and y'all telling me God ain't a man. That God was a God. So I went back to my own understanding. I did not get a God of my understanding. Loving, caring, and greater than myself. That's what y'all told me to get. Loving, caring, and greater than myself. So I went back and got this hymn. And some of y'all went and got a her. And some of us went and got something else. But in most cases, in the majority of cases, as far as what Narcotics Anonymous was calling for in the God, loving, caring, and greater than ourselves, we didn't get that. And some of us relapsed on that. When I heard the old timers say, as far as recovery is concerned, you make a decision when you make the decision to turn your will and your life over to the care of God, that decision is to work the steps. But for me, for some reason, the God of my understanding, my disease creeped into my own thinking, and I relapsed. And I made step 2, step 3. I made step 2, step 3. That's what happened. So my program was hijacked by my thinking. Addiction/alcoholism had crept into my thinking and snatched the God. So let's talk about God a little bit. I'm going to talk about God a little bit. When I look at the traditional God, and I don't care what religion that you go and get that God from, it didn't have no face value. Because God, as I saw it from my eyes, wasn't here for me based on how I grew up and how I looked at the whole historic situation of the God. I wasn't afraid of no God because to me, God didn't exist. Was not afraid. So then, and I'm sharing my experience, people start painting God black, giving him a beard, telling me God Indian and all this other stuff that was so confusing. You know, telling me God is all this other stuff. You know what I had to do? I had to go back and stick with the program. Loving, caring, and greater than myself. Because I was so desperate to find an identity because of a lot of social ills that was affecting me. I wasn't messing with no God that y'all was talking about. I didn't even want to mess with a black God. Then y'all gonna tell me God is a woman. Well, you know, it's a God is a woman. That's just as worse. Y'all saying God ain't a man, God is a woman. Well, that's just as worse. Sorry. I'm calling it like I see it. What's the difference between a woman and a man? Somebody please tell me. Other than the biology. A woman's just treacherous as a man is. And a man is just as treacherous as a woman. Look. In the 19th century, over 100 million people got killed, murdered. 19th century alone. And sure, men spearheaded Men spearheaded. But the woman was right there with him. That's right. She was right there with him. How the pot gonna call the kettle black? And then you got women claiming abuse these days. And I ain't saying they ain't. But men are abused too. Cause who take care of the kids? The women do. So both men and women got a part to play in it. Right now today, I know some treacherous women and I know some treacherous men. And I'm not leaving myself out. I know treacherous women and I know treacherous men. And if you just happen to know me, if you want to know, if I think you want to ask me, I damn sure tell you. I sure will. I'll tell you what I think about you. But right now, I don't know no treacherous man or woman. Not one. Right now. That's just the way I think about it. And I got a daughter and a wife. That's just the way I think about it, y'all. So let's move back on to step 3. We made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. So let me ask you something. How are you going to understand something without a form or a concept? Unless you see it. Well, you know, and I hear it. I see evidence. I see evidence. I got the evidence. It's in my heart. You're lying. You're lying. Stop lying to yourself. Usually, when forms and concepts are made, and the aspect that I'm talking about now is for self-centered reasons. With most people. And I say it with most people. Not all people, most people. But me personally, I don't know nobody. I know they out there. But I don't know nobody that have a concept and a form of God that's not fitting their own, that the concept is not fitting their own selfish reasons. And I'm going to tell you another thing. Half the people I know don't even believe in God. Now, let me back that up. 95% of the people I know don't believe in God. They believe in their damn self. And it's all right. Because what do the third step say? We must be honest about our belief. And if you ain't honest about your belief, you will never get this step. Never. And your program is going to be flawed and it's going to show. So what I did was I took the safe route out. When I heard the old timers sharing on this, you know what I said? I don't believe in God. I'm agnostic at best, and I still hold on to it, regardless of what you see me do, negative or positive. Because what I understand about the average human, and I'm not going to say being, the average human that confess they believe in God is lying. They're lying to you. The average one that say they believe in God is lying to you. To me, now I take that back. They're lying to me. Don't tell me that shit, because I know you lying. You believe in yourself. Your concept and your form comes from your own image and is fashioned by your disease. And I'm going to tell you how. Look at all the people you done messed over. And so today you going to tell me you believe in God? With that trail of tears and blood you done left behind? You got to get honest about your belief. Until you look at your own character defects and your own shortcomings and see how they affected people, places, and things, you'll never have an understanding of God that's based on loving, caring, and greater than yourself, because the God is you. And this what makes step 3 a bitter pill to swallow. And I'm talking about the conscious people too. Have 95% of people say they believe in God don't. 95% of people who talk about any type of religion or spirituality is working on it. That's all I can say. It's working on it. People that's in the 12-step program, coming from AA and NA, we up under a lot of mercy. We're up under a lot of mercy. So I got to wrap this up. I'm 41 minutes in. It's after 2 o'clock. I got to get up in the morning. So I'm not fooling myself. I'm not being fooled by form and concept. Right now, I just say most days I'm agnostic at best. I do follow a routine. You know, I got certain places that I go to. I pray and I meditate. I do. But based on my own experience in life, dealing with myself, let me play that back. In my relationship with myself, in my relationship with other people, what I see, I see people that's searching for a God, hoping for a God, but belief in God, people believe in what they see. They believe in forms and they believe in concepts. And that's the challenge of step 3, to come away from the form and to come away from the concept and gather some of your own understanding. And you'll find out that it's not your understanding. So wrapping step 3 up, we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. And then the last thing I'm going to say about this, usually when people make a decision, they usually look for a form or a concept. They're not going to make a decision if they don't have something to point at. Well, this is what faith is. But the faith comes from step 2. It don't come from step 3. And what step 2 is basically saying is that I'm not in control. However, I understand that if I open up my mind, if I open up my heart, and if I open up my soul, I will be guided by something greater than me. And it could be negative and it could be positive. So anyway, I'd like to say thanks for listening. I think it's step 5 I'm going to do next. When, I don't know. And with that, the we part of this step is mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. The decision is made based on step 1 and step 2. The will is my thinking. It's how I think. My life is my day-to-day affairs, or how I live daily. We made a decision to turn our will in our life over to the care. In the care of don't mean that God is just going to do what the fuck I say do. Don't mean he's going to save your mama, your daddy, anybody on the sick bed. What it means is that it's in the care of. And don't you worry about it. Ain't nothing you can do about it anyway. It's in the care of. If that person is going to die, it's meant for them to die, they going to die. But remember, it's still in the care of. It's still in the care of a God greater than ourselves. It's still in the care of, man. It's in the care of. Not God going to do what I say. Oh, save my mama, save my daddy, my brother, my sister. You the greatest God. You could do what you want to do. Really what I'm saying is you the God and you need to be doing what I think you should do. That's how that's rolling. Well, if God don't do what I think he should do, well then, God damn it ain't no God. Oh, Jesus. Jesus wept. Yeah. I got something in my stream. I don't know. But anyway, oh yeah. We made a decision to turn our will in our lives. And what's the decision based on? The decision is really based on is that I ain't got no control. No way. So anyway, that's my spill on step 3. I'm going to stick to it. And I'll holler at y'all in a few days, man. I'm just putting this stuff out for me. That's it. All right. I'll holler at y'all later. Thanks for being around. With that, goodbye.